A night that changed everything, the grand ballroom of the Fairmont. Hotels sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the chatter of San Francisco's elite. Ryan Blackwood stood near the bar, his tailored navy suit fitting perfectly across his broad shoulders. At 35, he had built Blackwood Technologies from a garage startup into a billion-dollar empire. But success had come with a price. His dark eyes, usually sharp and calculating in boardrooms, now surveyed the charity gala with barely concealed boredom. The ocean conservation fundraiser was something his. The PR team insisted he attend. Good optics, they said. Ryan swirled the whiskey in his glass, ready to make an early exit, when a voice behind him changed everything. "Excuse me? But you're standing in front of the information board about coral reef restoration." Ryan turned to find a woman with flowing auburn hair and striking hazel eyes, looking at him with polite determination. She wore a simple emerald dress that somehow outshone every designer gown in the room. What struck him most was her expression. There was no recognition of who he was, no calculated interest in his wealth. "My apologies," Ryan stepped aside, genuinely intrigued. "Are you particularly interested in coral reefs?" "It's actually my life's work." She smiled, extending her hand. "Natalie Rivers. I'm a marine biologist with the Pacific Ocean Research Institute. We're one of the organizations benefiting from tonight's fundraiser." Ryan shook her hand, feeling an unexpected warmth spread through him. Ryan Blackwood. And I have to admit, I know embarrassingly little about coral reefs beyond what I read in the event program. Natalie's laugh was genuine and infectious. "Well, that's more honest than most people here who pretend to care while checking their phones. Want me to tell you why coral reefs are actually the most fascinating ecosystems on Earth?" For the next hour, Ryan found himself completely captivated. Natalie spoke with infectious passion about ocean conservation. Her research on coral bleaching and the urgent need to protect marine habitats. She gestured animatedly, her eyes lighting up when she described discovering a new species of sea turtle during a dive in Indonesia. "I'm sorry." Natalie paused, touching his arm lightly. "I'm probably boring you to death. My sister Grace always says I need to learn when people are just being polite." "I'm not being polite," Ryan said, surprised by his own honesty. "I'm genuinely fascinated. By the research, yes, but also by your passion. It's refreshing to meet someone who cares so deeply about something beyond quarterly profits." Natalie studied his face, really looking at him for the first time. "You know, I didn't recognize you at first, but you're that Ryan Blackwood, the tech billionaire everyone's talking about." Ryan tensed slightly, waiting for the inevitable shift in her demeanor, the calculated interest that usually followed recognition. But Natalie simply smiled warmly. "That must be exhausting," she said softly. "Always being that Ryan Blackwood instead of just Ryan." Something cracked in Ryan's carefully constructed armor. "You have no idea," he admitted. "Most people only see the company, the money, the image. They don't see the person." "Oh, Ryan." "The person," Natalie's eyes twinkled. "Would you like to get some air? It's getting stuffy in here, and there's a beautiful view of the bay from the terrace. The beginning of something riant, the terrace overlooking the San Francisco Bay." With the Golden Gate Bridge glowing in the distance, Ryan and Natalie continued talking. The cool ocean breeze carried the scent of salt water, and for the first time in years, Ryan felt truly at ease. "Can I ask you something personal?" Natalie leaned against the railing, her hair catching the moonlight. "After listening to me talk about coral reefs for an hour, I think you've earned it," Ryan smiled. "Why, technology? What made you want to build this empire you have?" Ryan was quiet for a moment, considering how much to share. There was something about Natalie that made him want to be honest. Really honest, in a way he rarely was with anyone. "I grew up in foster care until I was 10, he began, his voice quiet. "My mother left me at a fire station when I was 7. Just dropped me off one morning and never came back. I spent 3 years in the system before Thomas Blackwood adopted me." Natalie's hand found his, squeezing gently. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer empty platitudes, just listened. "Thomas gave me everything," Ryan continued. "A home, an education, opportunities I never would have had. But I always felt this need to prove I was worth saving, you know? That her leaving wasn't because I was somehow defective. So I threw myself into building something, proving I could be successful, valuable. Ryan Natalie turned to face him fully. You were always worth saving, always valuable. Not because of what you could build or achieve, but because you existed. That little 7-year-old boy deserved love, period. Ryan felt his eyes sting with unexpected emotion. In all his years of therapy and self-reflection, no one had ever said exactly what he needed to hear quite like that. Thank you, he whispered. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. We just met. Sometimes the best connections happen with people who have no preconceptions about us. Natalie smiled. They see us fresh, without all the baggage and expectations. Ryan found himself leaning closer. Can I see you again? Not at a charity gala, not with hundreds of people around. Just us? I'd like that. Natalie's voice was soft. But I should warn you, my life is pretty unglamorous. Early mornings, dive suits, research boats. Not exactly billionaire territory. Sounds perfect, Ryan grinned. How about tomorrow? I'll pick you up at 6 in the morning, and you can show me your world. Natalie laughed, surprised and delighted. You're serious? 6 in the morning? Completely serious. I want to see what you're so passionate about. I want to understand your world. Yes. They exchanged numbers, their fingers lingering longer than necessary. Both felt the unmistakable spark of something beginning. Neither could have predicted how profoundly this encounter would change both their lives. Building something beautiful the next morning. Ryan arrived at the dock at exactly 6, armed with terrible coffee and genuine enthusiasm. Natalie appeared in worn jeans and a wetsuit, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, looking more beautiful than any woman he had ever seen in designer clothes.
Actually came, she beamed.
I wasn't sure if you'd show up, or if last night was just champagne talking. I don't say things I don't mean. Ryan handed her the coffee with an apologetic smile. Though I should probably admit I have no idea if this coffee is any good. I usually have an assistant handle that. Natalie took a sip and made a face. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Come on, I know a place. She grabbed his hand naturally, leading him to a small cafe near the marina, where she ordered them both proper coffee and breakfast burritos. They sat on a weathered bench, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. This is my favorite part of the day, Natalie said softly. Before the world wakes up fully, when it's just the ocean and the sky and infinite possibilities. Ryan watched her profile. The way the early light caught her features, and felt something shift in his chest. Something he had never quite felt before, like a door opening in a room he didn't know existed. Over the next 3 months, Ryan and Natalie became inseparable. He rearranged his schedule to join her research trips, learning to dive, to identify different species of fish, to understand the delicate balance of ocean ecosystems. She attended his company events, charming his colleagues with her genuine interest in their work and her refreshing lack of pretension. Ryan's best friend and business partner, Derek Hammond, watched this transformation with growing unease. He and Ryan had built Blackwood Technologies together, but Derek had always been in Ryan's shadow. Now, seeing Ryan happier than he had ever been, Derek felt a toxic mixture of envy and resentment festering inside him. You're different lately, Derek commented one afternoon in Ryan's office. Distracted. Taking days off. This isn't like you. I'm in love, Derek, Ryan said simply, his face lighting up. Natalie makes me want to be better, do better. She makes me remember there's more to life than quarterly earnings and market share. Derek forced a smile, but inside, something dark was growing. He had worked just as hard as Ryan, sacrificed just as much, but he would always be the partner, never the face of the company. And now Ryan had found happiness too. Something Derek's own failed relationships had never given him, meeting the family 3 months into their relationship. Ryan nervously prepared to introduce Natalie to Thomas Blackwood, the man who had saved him and become the father he never had. They met at Thomas's estate in Napa Valley, sprawling property with vineyards stretching to the horizon. Thomas, a distinguished man of 65 with silver hair and kind eyes, greeted them warmly. Over dinner, he watched the way Ryan and Natalie interacted. The gentle touches, the inside jokes, the way Ryan's entire face transformed when he looked at her. You love her, Thomas said later when Natalie had excused herself. It wasn't a question.
More than I thought possible, Ryan admitted.
She makes me believe I can be the man you always hoped I'd become, not just the businessman. Thomas gripped his shoulder. Son, I always knew you were that man. I'm just glad you found someone who helps you see it too. When Natalie returned, Thomas shared stories of Ryan as a boy. The challenges he had overcome, the determination that had driven him. Natalie listened intently, her hand finding Ryan's under the table. He's pretty remarkable, she said softly. He is, Thomas agreed. And so are you, my dear. It takes a special person to see past the armor to the heart underneath. That night, as Ryan drove Natalie home, she rested her head on his shoulder. I love you, she said quietly. I don't know when it happened exactly, but somewhere between coral reef lectures and terrible coffee, I fell completely in love with you. Ryan pulled over, turning to face her. I love you too. More than I knew I was capable of loving anyone? You've changed my entire world, Natalie. They kissed as the stars wheeled overhead, both believing they had found something rare and precious. Neither knew that in just 2 weeks, everything would shatter. Derek sat in his office late that night, making phone calls to people who specialized in creating problems. His plan was forming, dark and calculated. If he couldn't have Ryan's success and happiness, then Ryan shouldn't have it either. And the quickest way to destroy Ryan was to destroy the source of his newfound joy. The photographs would be expensive, worth it. The fabricated messages would be convincing. The witness testimony would be unshakable. By the time Derek was done, Ryan would believe that Natalie had betrayed him with his biggest business rival, Cameron West. And when Ryan's world crumbled, Derek would be there to pick up the pieces and finally step out of the shadow. The game was set. The pieces were moving, and Natalie Rivers had no idea that her perfect love story was about to become her worst nightmare. The perfect stormed. 2 weeks after that perfect evening at Thomas's estate, Ryan sat in his corner office on the 40th floor. Reviewing contracts for a major acquisition, the San Francisco skyline stretched before him, but his mind kept drifting to Natalie. She was leading a research expedition to the Farallon Islands today, and they had plans to celebrate her findings over dinner that evening. A sharp knock interrupted his thoughts. Derek entered without waiting for permission, his expression grave and troubled. He carried a manila envelope that he placed on Ryan's desk with obvious reluctance. Ryan, we need to talk, Derek said, his voice heavy with false concern. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but as your friend and partner, I can't keep this from you. Ryan looked up, immediately alert to the tension in Derek's posture. What's going on? Derek sat down heavily, running his hand through his hair in a gesture of apparent distress. It's about Natalie. I've been hearing rumors, but I didn't want to believe them. Then yesterday someone contacted me with these. He pushed the envelope across the desk. Ryan's hands trembled slightly as he opened it, his heart already beginning to race with an inexplicable dread. Inside were photographs, clear and damning. Natalie laughing intimately with Cameron West, Ryan's most ruthless business competitor. Another showed them embracing outside an upscale restaurant. A third captured what appeared to be a passionate kiss in a hotel lobby. The world tilted sideways. Ryan felt as though someone had reached into his chest and squeezed his heart until it stopped beating. No, he whispered, spreading the photos across his desk. This can't be real. Natalie wouldn't do this. Wish it wasn't real. Derek leaned forward, his voice dripping with manufactured sympathy. But there's more. I had someone verify these. They're legitimate, taken over the past 3 weeks, and there are text messages. Derek pulled out his phone, showing Ryan screenshots that made his blood run cold. Messages allegedly from Natalie's number to Cameron West, discussing their secret meetings, comparing Ryan unfavorably to Cameron, planning their next encounter. He's so controlling and obsessed with work. Being with you feels like freedom, one message read. Ryan will never know. He's too blind to see beyond his own world, read another. Each word was a knife, twisting in Ryan's gut. The little boy who had been abandoned by his mother at a fire station, who had spent years believing he wasn't worthy of love, felt all those old wounds ripping open. Confrontation and heartbreak. I need to talk to her. Ryan stood abruptly, his face pale. There has to be an explanation. Ryan, there's one more thing, Derek said quietly. I found a witness. A woman named Jennifer Park, who works at the Harbor Grand Hotel. She's seen them together multiple times, says they seemed very comfortable with each other. Ryan felt sick. The evidence was overwhelming, suffocating. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, that Natalie wasn't capable of this kind of betrayal. But the photos were right there. The messages were clear, and a witness had come forward. His phone buzzed. A text from Natalie. Just got back from the islands. Can't wait to see you tonight. I have so much to tell you. I love you. The words that should have filled him with warmth now felt like acid. Ryan stared at the message, his hands shaking with a mixture of rage and devastating heartbreak. I need the address where she is, Ryan said coldly. She's at her apartment, Derek replied. Pulling up the information on his phone. Ryan, maybe you should wait until tomorrow, when you've had time to process this. No, this ends tonight. The drive to Natalie's apartment in the Marina District passed in a blur. Ryan's mind raced through every moment they had shared, searching for signs he had missed, clues that she had been playing him all along. His mother's face flashed in his memory, her last words before abandoning him, echoing in his mind. I love you more than anything, Ryan. Always remember that, she had lied. And now, Natalie had lied too. The pattern was clear, devastating, undeniable. When Ryan knocked on Natalie's door, she opened it with a radiant smile that faltered immediately upon seeing his expression. Ryan. What's wrong? You look terrible. We need to talk, he said. His voice flat and cold in a way she had never heard before. Natalie stepped back, allowing him inside. Her apartment was decorated with photos of their time together, shells and coral specimens from their dives, little reminders of their relationship everywhere. Each one now felt like a mockery. Sit down, Ryan commanded. You're scaring me, Natalie said, her smile completely gone. What happened? Ryan pulled out his phone, bringing up the photos Derek had sent him. He handed it to Natalie without a word, watching her face carefully for any sign of guilt. Natalie looked at the screen, her expression shifting from confusion to shock to horror. What is this? Ryan, this isn't real. I've never been with Cameron West like this. These photos are fake. Fake, Ryan laughed bitterly. There are multiple photos, Natalie. From different days, different locations. And text messages. And a witness who saw you together at the Harbor Grand Hotel. I've never been to the Harbor Grand with anyone. Natalie's voice rose with desperation. Ryan, please, you have to believe me. Someone is setting this up. These images are manipulated. Of course they are. Ryan's voice dripped with sarcasm. Everyone who gets caught cheating says the evidence is fake. Natalie stood, reaching for him, but Ryan jerked away as if her touch burned. The gesture cut her deeper than any words could have. The breaking point, Ryan? Look at me, Natalie pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Really look at me. You know me. You know my heart. Do you honestly believe I could do this to you? For a moment, Ryan wavered. Looking into her hazel eyes, seeing her genuine distress, every fiber of his being wanted to believe her. But then the photos flashed in his mind again, along with his mother's betrayal, and the walls slammed back into place. I believed my mother loved me too, he said coldly. She told me every day how much I meant to her. Then one morning, she left me at a fire station like garbage and never looked back. So forgive me if I don't take declarations of innocence at face value. I love you, Ryan. I have never betrayed you. Whatever you're seeing, whatever you've been told, it's a lie designed to hurt us. Ryan laughed harshly. There is no us anymore. How long have you been seeing him? Since before we met? Was this whole thing planned from the beginning? Did Cameron send you to that charity gala to get close to me? Stop it, Natalie sobbed. Please stop. You're not thinking clearly. This isn't you talking, it's your trauma. Don't psychoanalyze me, Ryan snapped. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months. I was blind, stupid, so desperate to believe someone could actually love me that I ignored every warning sign. What warning signs? Natalie shouted, her desperation turning to anger. There were no warning signs because there's nothing to warn about. I wake up every morning grateful that I found you. I go to sleep every night feeling lucky that you're in my life. I have built my entire world around loving you. Built on lies. Ryan turned away from her, unable to bear looking at her face anymore. Everything was a performance. The interest in my past, the sweet gestures, the way you made me feel safe enough to open up, it was all calculated. Natalie grabbed his arm, forcing him to face her. Listen to me. I don't know who Cameron West even is beyond what I've read in business articles. I have never met him privately. I have never texted him. I have never been unfaithful to you in any way. Someone is doing this to destroy us. The evidence is overwhelming, Natalie. Ryan pulled free from her grasp. Photos don't lie. Witnesses don't lie. But I don't lie, Natalie cried. And you're choosing to believe strangers and digital images over the woman who loves you? What does that say about us? What does that say about the trust we've supposedly built? Ryan felt something crack inside him, but he pushed it down, buried it under layers of protective anger. It says I was a fool to trust anyone. It says I should have learned my lesson the first time someone promised to love me and then walked away. So that's it? Natalie's voice broke. You're not even going to investigate? Not going to consider that maybe, just maybe, someone wants to break us apart? You're just going to believe the worst of me and walk away? What else is there to believe? Ryan headed toward the door. The proof is irrefutable. The proof is fabricated. Natalie followed him, grabbing his jacket. Ryan, please, give me a chance to prove this is all fake. Let me hire an investigator. Let me show you the truth. Ryan paused at the door, his hand on the handle. For one heartbeat, he almost turned around, almost pulled her into his arms and agreed to fight this together. But then he remembered his mother's face, heard her voice saying she loved him right before she abandoned him, and the fear won. Don't contact me again, he said without turning around. Don't call, don't text, don't come to my office. We're done, Natalie. Whatever we had, it's over. I love you. Natalie sobbed as he opened the door. I love you with everything I am, and I will prove this is all lies. I won't give up on us. There is no us, Ryan said flatly. There never really was. It was just another con, another betrayal waiting to happen. I should have known better. He walked out, closing the door on her anguished cries, on 3 months of happiness, on the first real love he had ever known. In his car, Ryan gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white, fighting the urge to run back inside and beg her forgiveness for doubting her. But the photos were real. The messages were real. The witness was real. And the 7-year-old boy inside him who had been abandoned screamed that love was always a lie, that trust was always misplaced, that he should have known better than to open his heart. The aftermath the next 3 weeks were a special kind of torture for both of them. Natalie called Ryan's number 50 times a day, each call going straight to voicemail. She sent emails that bounced back unread. She showed up at Blackwood Technologies only to be turned away by security with instructions that she was not permitted on the property in desperation. She hired 2 private investigators who confirmed what she already knew. The photos were digitally manipulated, sophisticated but fake. The metadata had been altered, the images composed from separate photographs taken at different times and places. But when she tried to share this information with Ryan, he refused to see her. Natalie's sister Grace found her one evening sitting in the dark of her apartment, surrounded by photos of happier times, barely eating, barely sleeping. Nat, you have to take care of yourself, Grace said gently, sitting beside her. You're wasting away. You won't listen, Natalie whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. He won't even give me 5 minutes to explain. It's like the man I loved just disappeared and was replaced by someone cold and cruel. Then maybe you need to let him go, Grace suggested carefully. If he can't trust you enough to at least hear you out. If he's willing to throw away everything you've built together based on fake evidence, maybe he's not who you thought he was. But he is, Natalie insisted. This is his trauma talking, not his heart. Someone knew exactly how to trigger his abandonment issues, how to make him believe the worst. And I need to find out who. She pulled out her laptop, opening files her investigators had compiled. These photos were created by a company called Digital Illusions. They specialize in this kind of manipulation for movies and advertising. Someone paid them $50,000 to create these images. Can you trace who paid them? Grace asked. They're protected by client confidentiality. But I'm not giving up. I'll find out who did this, and I'll make Ryan see the truth. Meanwhile, Ryan was living his own nightmare. He threw himself into work with destructive intensity, arriving at the office before dawn and leaving after midnight. He stopped attending social events, stopped seeing friends, stopped doing anything that might remind him of the happiness he had lost. Thomas tried repeatedly to reach him, but Ryan dodged his calls. He couldn't bear to tell his adoptive father how spectacularly he had failed at love, how he had proven himself unworthy of the happiness Thomas had always wanted for him. Late at night, alone in his penthouse, Ryan would pour a glass of whiskey and listen to Natalie's voicemails. Her voice, desperate and broken, pleading for just one conversation. I have proof the photos are fake. Just give me 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I miss you so much it physically hurts. I can't sleep, can't eat, can't function. Please just talk to me. I love you. I will always love you. And I will prove my innocence whether you listen or not. Each message twisted the knife deeper into his heart. Part of him wanted to believe her, wanted to run to her and apologize for doubting. But a larger part, the damaged part shaped by years of abandonment and fear, kept him frozen in place. Derek watched Ryan's decline with satisfaction and carefully hidden guilt. He had achieved what he wanted. Ryan was vulnerable, distracted. Derek had already begun quietly approaching potential buyers for Ryan's shares in the company. Soon he would have full control of Blackwood Technologies. But late at night, Derek too had moments of doubt. He would remember Ryan as a young college student, brilliant and driven. Would included Derek in his dreams when he could have done it all alone. He would remember all the times Ryan had supported him, believed in him, treated him as an equal partner. Then Derek would think about always being second, always being the partner instead of the founder. And the guilt would harden back into resentment. Ryan had everything, even Natalie's genuine love. He could afford to lose some of it. The breaking point, 3 weeks after the breakup, Natalie made one final attempt. She stood outside Ryan's building in the rain, waiting for him to leave work. When he finally emerged at 11 at night, she stepped into his path. "Ryan, please," she said, soaked and shivering. "I need you to hear me out." Ryan froze, his heart lurching at the sight of her. She had lost weight, her face was pale and drawn, and her eyes held a depth of pain that mirrored his own. "Natalie, I told you not to contact me," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I have proof," she held out a folder. "The photos are fake. I have forensic analysis, metadata reports, everything. Someone paid $50,000 to create those images. Someone is trying to destroy us." For a moment, Ryan wavered. Then he thought about the witness, about the detailed messages, about how perfectly everything fit together. "Or you hired someone to create fake proof that the proof is fake," he said coldly. "I've seen that tactic before in corporate espionage." Natalie's face crumpled. "You really believe that? You really think I would go to these lengths to deceive you?" "I don't know what to believe anymore," Ryan said, stepping around her. "But I know I can't do this. I can't put myself through this torture again." "Torture?" Natalie's voice rose. "You think this is torture for you? I'm fighting for us while you're running away. The Ryan I fell in love with was brave enough to face his fears. This version of you is just a coward hiding behind old wounds." Right. The words hit Ryan like a slap. He spun around, anger flashing in his eyes. "Don't you dare call me a coward. You have no idea what it took for me to open up to you, to trust you, and you threw it away for whatever Cameron West offered you." "I've never even spoken to Cameron West," Natalie screamed, her composure finally shattering completely. "But you know what? Maybe Grace is right. Maybe if you can't trust me enough to even look at evidence, then we never had what I thought we had. Maybe I fell in love with an illusion." She threw the folder at his feet, the papers scattering in the rain. "There's your proof. Read it or don't. Believe it or don't. I'm done begging someone to trust me when I've given them no reason not to. Natalie walked away, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Ryan stood in the rain, watching her disappear into the night, the folder at his feet slowly soaking through. He bent down, picking up one of the papers. But the rain had already blurred the ink. Behind him, hidden in a doorway, Derek watched with satisfaction. His plan had worked perfectly. Now he just had to wait for Ryan to hit rock bottom. And then he would make his move for the company. But what Derek didn't know was that Thomas Blackwood had been watching too. And the old man had recognized the signs of manipulation. He had seen too much in his years of business to be fooled by convenient timing and perfect evidence. And unlike Ryan, Thomas wasn't blinded by trauma and pain. The next morning, Thomas hired his own investigator, the best in the business. And he began to dig into Derek Hammond's recent activities, financial transactions, and associations. The truth was buried. But Thomas Blackwood was a patient man who knew how to unearth secrets. The stage was set for the truth to finally emerge. But the question remained. Would it come in time to save the love that had been so deliberately destroyed? Or had the damage gone too deep to ever be repaired? The investigation, Thomas Blackwood sat in his study at the Napa Valley estate, reviewing documents that his investigator, a former FBI agent named Robert Chen, had compiled over the past week. What he found made his blood boil with a fury he rarely felt. "This is solid," Thomas asked, looking up at Robert. "Ironclad," Robert confirmed. Derek Hammond paid Digital Illusions $50,000 3 weeks before the photos surfaced. The payment was routed through 2 shell companies, but I traced it back to his personal accounts. He also paid Jennifer Park, the supposed witness, $5,000. She's an unemployed actress who's done this kind of thing before. Thomas closed his eyes, feeling sick. Derek had been like a second son to him, someone he had trusted implicitly. To discover this level of betrayal cut deep. "The text messages?" Thomas asked, created using AI software. Hammond accessed samples of Natalie Rivers' writing from emails she had sent to the company about partnership opportunities for ocean conservation. The AI generated messages in her style and syntax. Sophisticated but forensic analysis shows they're fake. Does Ryan know any of this? No, sir. He's refused to look at any evidence Ms. Rivers tried to present. He's shut down completely. Thomas stood, his decision made. "We're going to his office right now. He needs to see this whether he wants to or not." An hour later, Thomas walked past Ryan's protesting assistant and into his son's office. Ryan looked up, startled, and Thomas was shocked by what he saw. His son had aged years in 3 weeks, with dark circles under his eyes and a gauntness to his features that spoke of missed meals and sleepless nights. "Dad, I can't talk right now," Ryan began. "You're going to sit down and listen?" Thomas interrupted, his voice brooking no argument. He dropped a thick folder on Ryan's desk. "Because I just discovered that your partner, your supposed friend, orchestrated the entire thing that destroyed your relationship with Natalie."
Oh.
The truth revealed. Ryan stared at the folder as if it might bite him. "What are you talking about?" "Open it," Thomas commanded. With trembling hands, Ryan opened the folder. Inside were bank statements showing Derek's payments to Digital Illusions. Signed statements from Jennifer Park admitting she had been paid to lie. Forensic reports proving the photos were manipulated. An analysis of the text messages showing they were generated fakes, as Ryan read. His face went from confusion to shock to horror. Each page was another nail in the coffin of his relationship with Derek. And another piece of evidence that Natalie had been telling the truth all along. "No," Ryan whispered, his hand shaking so badly he could barely hold the papers. "No, this can't be real." "It's real," Thomas said gently. "Derek has been planning this for months. He wanted to buy you out of the company, and he knew you'd be more vulnerable if you were emotionally destroyed. So he targeted the one thing that made you truly happy." Ryan stood abruptly, the chair flying backward. "I have to find Natalie. I have to tell her I'm sorry. I have to make this right, son." "Wait," Thomas caught his arm. "There's something else you need to know. Derek is in his office right now, probably destroying evidence. You need to confront him first, with Robert here as a witness. We need his confession on record for the legal proceedings. Ryan's grief transformed into cold fury. Let's go. They found Derek in his office, feeding papers into a shredder. He looked up as they entered, and the blood drained from his face when he saw Robert Chen behind them. Ryan, Thomas, what's going on? Derek tried to smile, but it came out as more of a grimace. Why? Ryan asked, his voice deadly quiet. Just tell me why, Derek. What did I ever do to you that made you want to destroy my life? Derek's facade crumbled. Years of resentment and jealousy poured out in a bitter torrent. You had everything. The company should have been ours equally, but everyone only saw Ryan Blackwood, the genius founder. I was just the partner, always in your shadow. And then you got Natalie too, perfect and genuine, while my relationships fell apart. So you decided to destroy mine? Ryan's voice rose. You made me believe the woman I love betrayed me. You tortured both of us for weeks because you were jealous. I wanted you to know what it felt like to lose everything, Derek shot back. To be the one left behind for once. You're fired, Ryan said flatly. Security will escort you out. My lawyers will be in touch about the criminal and civil charges you'll be facing. Get out of my sight before I do something I'll regret. Security led Derek away. Ryan turned to Thomas. I have to find Natalie. Right now. The desperate search Ryan drove to Natalie's apartment, his heart pounding. He had rehearsed what he would say 1,000 times on the drive over. But nothing seemed adequate for the magnitude of his mistake. When he knocked on her door, her sister Grace answered. You have a lot of nerve showing up here, Grace said coldly. I know I do. But I have proof now, proof that Natalie was telling the truth all along. Please, I need to see her. She's not here, Grace said. She's been on medical leave for 2 weeks. She couldn't work, couldn't function. You broke her, Ryan. The words hit him like physical blows. Where is she? Why should I tell you? So you can hurt her again? So I can spend the rest of my life making it up to her, Ryan's voice cracked. Grace, please. I was wrong, so devastatingly wrong. I let my past trauma blind me to the truth. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. But I'm going to fix this, if she'll let me. Grace studied him for a long moment. She's at the Pacific Ocean Research Institute. She went there today to resign. Said she couldn't bear being in San Francisco anymore with all the memories. Ryan ran back to his car and drove to the institute like a man possessed. He found Natalie in the marine biology lab, packing up her research materials. She looked even worse than he did. If that was possible, pale and hollow-eyed, moving through the motions like a ghost. Natalie, he said from the doorway. She turned, and the look on her face nearly destroyed him. There was no anger, no hope, just a deep, resigned sadness that told him how close he was to losing her forever. What are you doing here, Ryan? I know the truth, he said, moving closer. I know Derek fabricated everything. The photos, the messages, the witness. I know you've been innocent all along, and I am so sorry. The path to forgiveness. Natalie set down the box she was holding carefully, as if afraid sudden movements might shatter her. You know the truth now. 3 weeks later, after I begged you to listen, after I gave you proof you refused to look at, now you know the truth. I was wrong, Ryan said, tears streaming down his face. I was scared and damaged, and I let that destroy the best thing in my life. But Natalie, I never stopped loving you. Not for 1 second. Love isn't enough. Natalie's voice was quiet but firm. Love without trust is just possession, Ryan. It's control and fear, dressed up in pretty words. You didn't love me enough to trust me when it mattered most. You're right. Ryan dropped to his knees in front of her. You're absolutely right. But I'm not asking you to take me back right now. I'm asking for a chance to prove I can change, that I can become worthy of your trust again. How? Natalie asked, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. How do I trust you won't do this again? The next time someone plants doubt, the next time your trauma gets triggered, how do I know you won't throw me away again? Because I've already started therapy, Ryan said. Intensive sessions with a trauma specialist. I'm confronting the wounds from my childhood, learning to recognize when my fear is talking instead of my reason. I'm doing the work. Real work. Not just making promises. Natalie sank into a chair, exhausted. Ryan, I love you. I never stopped loving you, but I can't go back to where we were. I can't live wondering when you'll stop trusting me again, and let's start over. Ryan moved to sit beside her, careful not to touch her without permission. Let's build something new, something stronger. Let me show you over time, with consistent actions, that I've changed. I'm not asking for your trust back today. I'm asking for the opportunity to earn it. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that, Natalie whispered. The past 3 weeks have been the worst of my life. I lost the man I love. I lost my confidence. I lost my sense of safety in the world. I know, and I will regret that for the rest of my life, Ryan said. But Natalie, we can heal together. We can be honest about our fears and work through them instead of running from them. I'm not the same man who walked out of your apartment 3 weeks ago. That man was a coward. I want to be brave enough to face my demons and fight for us. Natalie looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something different in his eyes. Not just regret, but genuine understanding of the pain he had caused and determination to do better. If we do this, she said slowly, we do it my way. Therapy for both of us. Couples counseling, complete transparency. And the moment I feel you doubting me again without cause, I walk away for good. I won't survive another betrayal like this. Anything, Ryan agreed. Whatever terms you set, I'll meet them. You set the pace. You set the boundaries. I'm just grateful for the chance. Rebuilding trust the next 3 months were unlike anything either of them had experienced. Ryan committed to therapy with an intensity that matched how he approached everything in his life. He attended individual sessions 3 times a week, working through the trauma of his mother's abandonment and the defense mechanisms he had built up over the years. Natalie also started therapy, processing her own pain from the false accusations and the betrayal of Ryan's mistrust. Together, they attended couples counseling once a week. Learning to communicate their fears and needs in healthy ways, their relationship started over from the beginning. Ryan took Natalie on first dates again, courted her properly, proved through consistent action that he had changed. He shared his therapy breakthroughs with her, admitted when he felt triggered, and asked for her help in working through his reactions instead of making assumptions. One evening, 2 months into their reconciliation, Natalie invited Ryan to a special event at the Research Institute. They were unveiling findings from the Farallon Islands expedition, the one she had been on the day their world fell apart. I want you to see this, she told him as they stood before a display of underwater photographs. This is what I was going to tell you about the night you came to my apartment with Derek's lies. We discovered a completely new species of coral that could be resistant to bleaching. Ryan looked at the beautiful images, then at Natalie's face. Glowing with professional pride and personal passion, I'm so sorry I almost made you miss sharing this, he said quietly. I'm sorry my issues nearly destroyed your joy in your work. But they didn't. Natalie squeezed his hand. I'm still here. The research is still important, and you're learning to let me have my own world without fear. That's growth, Ryan. The weeks turned into months, and slowly, carefully, they rebuilt what had been broken. This time it was stronger because it was built on honest communication, therapy-supported growth, and a mutual commitment to face fears together, rather than running from them. Thomas watched his son's transformation with pride and relief. Derek faced criminal charges for fraud and conspiracy, and the business world learned of his treachery. Blackwood Technologies thrived under Ryan's renewed focus. But now balanced with a life outside work, Grace, initially skeptical of Ryan's promises, gradually warmed to him as she saw the consistent effort he put into earning back Natalie's trust. He really has changed, she told her sister one day. I didn't think it was possible, but he's done the work. The proposal's 6 months after their reconciliation, Ryan planned something special. He arranged for them to revisit the Fairmont Hotel, site of the charity gala where they had first met. But this time, the ballroom was private, decorated with underwater projections that made it feel like they were standing in Natalie's beloved ocean. What is this? Natalie asked as she entered, wearing the same emerald dress from their first meeting. This is me asking you to marry me, Ryan said, dropping to one knee. but not the way I would have asked 6 months ago when I thought love alone was enough. Now I'm asking you to marry me knowing that love is just the beginning, that it takes trust, communication, vulnerability, and constant work to build a life together." He pulled out a ring with an aquamarine center stone surrounded by diamonds. "I chose aquamarine because it reminded me of the ocean you love, and because it symbolizes courage and clear communication, the things I had to learn to be worthy of you." Natalie's tears flowed freely as Ryan continued. "I'm asking you to marry me knowing I'm not perfect, that I'll still have moments of doubt and fear. But I promise to always communicate those fears instead of acting on them. I promise to trust you first and investigate doubts together. I promise to spend every day earning the gift of your love. Natalie Rivers, will you marry me?" Natalie pulled him to his feet, framing his face with her hands. "Yes, but with one condition. Promise me that we'll never stop working on ourselves, on our communication, on our growth. Promise me that when things get hard, we'll face them together instead of running away." "I promise," Ryan said, sliding the ring onto her finger. "Together, always together." They kissed as underwater projections swirled around them. In that moment, both knew they had created something rare and precious. Not a perfect love, because perfect love doesn't exist, but a real love built on honesty, growth, and the courage to keep choosing each other, even when fear whispered lies. New Beginnings. The wedding took place 8 months later at a small beach in Big Sur, with the Pacific Ocean as their witness. Thomas walked Natalie down the sandy aisle, while Grace stood as maid of honor. Ryan's therapy group attended, as did Natalie's research team. Everyone who had supported them through their darkest times, as they exchanged vows they had written together, vows that acknowledged their brokenness and their healing. Everyone present felt the power of second chances and hard-won redemption. "I promise to trust you," Ryan said, his voice clear and strong. "And when my trauma makes that hard, I promise to talk to you about my fears instead of acting on them. I promise to see you as you are, not through the lens of my past wounds. I promise to be patient with your healing," Natalie responded, "and to remind you gently when fear is speaking instead of love. I promise to build a life with you where both of us can be fully ourselves, trusted and free." Their kiss sealed promises made, not in the blindness of new love, but in the clear-eyed commitment of people who had seen each other's worst and chosen each other anyway at the reception. Thomas raised his glass for a toast. "To my son, who learned that true strength isn't protecting yourself from pain, but being brave enough to heal from it. And to Natalie, who had the courage to love a wounded man and the wisdom to demand he do the work to become whole. May your love continue to grow deeper with each challenge you face together." As the sun set over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Ryan and Natalie danced on the beach, their feet in the sand, their future stretching before them, bright with possibility. Derek's betrayal had nearly destroyed them, but in the end, it had given them something unexpected, the opportunity to build a love based not on fantasy, but on reality, not on fear, but on trust, not on running from wounds, but on healing them together. And as they swayed to the music, with the waves whispering promises of their own, both knew that this was the real beginning. The beginning of a marriage built on truth, trust, and the unshakable knowledge that they were stronger together than they had ever been apart.